Yes, good morning everyone. Welcome back to software engineering classes there. So with respect to our last class, we had come across with these different models there. Okay, so you're very well aware now with the diagrams called as use case diagram, class diagram, behavioral models, that's a state chart diagram. Okay, so followed up with that, let us come across with today's class with model driven engineering. What do you mean by model driven engineering? So model driven engineering is nothing but keep in mind that it's an approach for the software development where models are being taken into address rather than the programs. Okay, so ultimately we of course know that the programs happens to be our principal outputs of the development process, but with respect to model driven engineering, model happens to be a major impact there. Okay, the programs that execute on a hardware or software platform are being generated automatically, okay, from these respective models there. Then one more very important thing is, so proponents of MDE, that's model driven engineering, argue that this raises the level of abstraction in software engineering so that the engineers no longer have to be concerned with programming language details or the specifics of execution platforms. Okay, so this is with respect to your proponents of MDE. So then let us come across with usage of model driven engineering. So usages are, I can bifurcate them into pros and cons there. Okay, so with respect to pros and cons, so model driven engineering is still at an early stage of the development, and it is unclear that whether or not it will have a significant effect on software engineering practice there. Okay, the pros are it allows the system to be considered at higher levels of abstraction. Okay, then one more is generating code automatically means that it is cheaper to adapt systems to new platforms there. Okay, and what are the cons here? The cons are models for abstraction and not necessarily right for implementation there. Okay, saving from generating code, okay, may be overweighted. Okay, so whenever we are saving the generated code there, it might be overweighted in the form of cost of developing translators for new platforms there. Okay, then there comes a model driven architecture. Okay, so ultimately before I go across with these things, you can just come across directly with what are the different types of models. There are three types of models which are being ejected there. So those are computation independent model, platform independent model, and platform specific model. So whenever computation independent model are nothing but wherein the important is domain abstractions used in a system. Okay, CIMs are sometimes called as domain models also. Okay, where specially I'm preparing my model based on the respective CIM there, that is computation independent model there. Okay, that is specially based on the domains there. Then comes the second one wherein it's a platform independent model. So platform independent model are wherein the operation of the system without reference to its implementation there. Okay, so the PIM is usually described using UML models that show the static system structure and how it responds to external and internal events there. Okay, then the third one is platform specific model. So wherein these are the transformations of the platform independent model with a separate PSM for each application platform there. Okay, in principle there may be layers of PSM with each layer adding some platform specific detail there. Okay, so that's with the platform specific model. So you can just come across with this MDA transformations there. I have different translators with me. Okay, if at all it's a computation independent model. Okay, so just a second. Okay, so if at all it's a computation independent model, okay, and translator is used, and ultimately through that translator, what I am coming across is I am coming across with some domain specific guidelines there. Using these domain specific guidelines and with the user, so I come across with computational independent model, else it can be platform independent model. Okay, so after this platform independent model has been generated, what I again use across with a translator. Okay, so through that translator I generate with this platform specific model there. Okay, so this translator has a feed from specific patterns and rules. Using some specific pattern and rule, I come across to a conclusion saying what that it's a platform specific model there. Okay, so then wherein I go across with a translator. Okay, through that translator I have an executable code. Okay, when I have this executable code and a translator is used, for this translator what is the feed for me? It's a language specific patterns are used there as an input. Okay, so using this I have an executable code with me. Okay, so this is MDA transformations which are used ultimately through computational specific independent model to platform independent model, from platform independent model to platform specific model, and from here to executable code. Okay, so wherein there is another entry which can be taken across, that's a platform, that's a multiple platform specific models there. Okay, whenever I look across with multiple platform specific models there, so always keep in mind, so what I have with platform independent model, now here you can take an example of, I have a J2EE translator, and on to the other side I have a .NET translator there. So when I'm using it, so through J2EE translator I can generate with a J2EE specific model, Java code generator, then I can have my Java program with me. Okay, when it comes across with the .NET translator, I can have a .NET specific model, then C# code generator, then I can have a C# program with me. So this is with your multiple platform specific model there. Okay, so followed up with that, let us come across with one more inclusion, and that's called as RUP. So what is this RUP? RUP stands for Rational Unified Process. What do you mean by Rational Unified Process? Rational Unified Process recognizes that conventional process models present a single view of the process. Okay. So what do you mean by that is, RUP is normally described from three perspectives. One is dynamic perspective, the second one is static perspective, and the third one is practice perspective. Okay, so dynamic perspective, which shows phases of the model over the time. Okay, over the time what I have with the dynamic behavior of that particular rational unified process, I'll be having that. The second one is static perspective, which shows the process activities that are encated and encated. Okay, then the third one is practice perspective. So practice perspective, it suggests that good practices to be used during the process there. Okay, during the process you have to use an good practices. Using those good practices, I have a model which has been generated there. Okay, then we can just I'll just tell you with an block diagram for the same. So this is the block diagram for rational unified process. So I have a phase iterations goes across. How this phase iteration goes across is, it is something like a software development process only, but I have the terms which are used are different here. Okay, inception, elaboration, construction, transition. Inception is where you are gathering across with the requirements. Okay, you can just come across. Goal. So what is the goal? To establish a business case for the system. It is necessary to identify all the external entities that will interact with the system and define these interactions. Okay, this information can then be used to assess the contribution that the system makes to the business. Okay, so ultimately you are gathering across with the requirements, what help it will be doing across with the business. All these things are done out in this phase called out as inception. The second one is elaboration. So elaboration is whatever I have incepted here, I'll be elaborating it to develop an understanding of the program domain, establish an architectural framework for the system, develop the project plan, and identify the key project risks there, and that is elaboration. Okay, after I have elaboration, then comes a phase called out as construction. So construction stands for, it involves the system design, programming, and testing here. Okay, these all three are included here. Parts of the system are developed in parallel and integrated during this phase. On completion of this phase, you should have an working software system and associated documentation that is ready for delivery to users. Okay, so that's all with respect to construction. Okay, so then comes across is a transition, wherein it is almost like, I can call it across as a deployment phase here. Okay, deployment is, it is concerned with moving the system from development community to the user community. Okay, and making it work in a real environment. On completion of this phase, you should have a documented software system that is working correctly in its operational environment there. Okay, and that is transition. Okay, so followed up with that, this is just a recommendation which is given across, and this happens to be 6 fundamental best practices which are recommended. What are those? The very first one is develop the software iteratively. Okay, that is, plan the increments of the system based on the customer priorities and develop the highest priority system features early in the development process. Okay, second one is manage the requirements. Okay, so develop software iteratively is nothing but you have to plan the increments of the respective system on what you are looking across. So based out on the customer priorities and develop the highest priority system as a first early development. Okay, the second one is managing the requirements. So whenever you are managing the requirements, it explicitly documents the customer's requirements and keep track of changes to these respective requirements. Okay, so ultimately you are managing the things. So that is what all customer requirements are there, keeping the track of those changes which are being looked across by using those requirements, doing an analysis for that. Okay, that's all with managed requirement. The third one is use of component based architecture. So you structure the system architecture into components there. Okay, that's the use of component based architecture. Next comes visually model the software. You are using a graphical UML model to present static and dynamic views of the software. So that is wherein you start viewing the respective software with these graphical UML models there. Then you verify the software quality. So I always keep in mind you have to verify the quality with what you are preparing. Okay, that is verifying the software quality. So whether ensuring that whether it has followed out with all the standards or no and other things there. Okay. Then control changes to the software. Manage changes to the software using a change management system and configuration management procedure and tools. So ultimately, do not go on accepting all the changes whatever are being required across for a respective software. There, you have to control those changes to the software also. Okay. So this is with respect to your rational unified process and other things there. Okay, in my next class, I will tell you a little more extended to the same things there. Okay. Thank you.